You've saved $1 million. Now you want to retire. How much can you actually live on? Hey, it's Eric with Jazz Wealth Managers, where we don't just invest your dough. We like to educate you on your dough. Let's talk a little bit about money and retirement. Now, the thing is that a lot of people have a goal of saving $1 million. So let's say that you're close to retirement right this second and you want to retire and you've got $1 million saved. Well, first of all, congrats. You beat the odds. You got quite a bit of money set aside. That's awesome. Now, if you're 50 years old, $1 million isn't going to be near as much as if you're 60 years old or if you're 65. The more you have later on in life, the more you can live on. So if you're early in life and you're going to retire at 50 and you have $1 million, well, it's going to have to last a lot longer. So you just have to keep that in mind. But check this out right here. So if we just go over and we Google, how much do you need to retire? So Merrill Edge says that retirement experts have offered various rules of thumb, somewhere near $1 million or 80 to 90% of your annual pre-retirement income or 12 times your pre-retirement salary. So a lot of different views there. I mean, that's three totally separate things on ways to look at it. But the truth is like I say, it's all going to depend on a lot of variables. And one of those big ones is Social Security. Another one's going to be your expenses and how much you need to live on. Also, healthcare. You've got to calculate in your healthcare expenses. And then in the end, depending on the scenario and what ends up happening is long-term care needs. Maybe, the last few years of the plan, you end up in a nursing home or an assisted living care. That could definitely deplete the plan. The nice thing about that is depends on where you live and how that works, but there are things that can come into play if you spent down all of your assets. Oftentimes, Medicaid steps in. I know that's not one people want to think of, though sharing a bit more of a personal story. Actually, my grandfather had Alzheimer's. We did everything we could as a family to take care of him. Unfortunately, got to a point where he had to go into a facility to get professional help and care. And when it came to that time, my grandfather had done well enough for himself, thankfully, that he had the assets to pay. But unfortunately, my grandmother was on the hook for having to pay for that care. Well, the person right next to him didn't have as much in assets, and Medicaid stepped in, and that person received the same care. Now, I'm not saying that to say that that person didn't deserve to receive that same care. What I'm trying to share with you is there are things in place when it comes to the U.S. government and the way it all works so that it will make sure that you are taken care of if you get in there and long-term care comes into play. So that being said, all right, let's take a look here. What I want to show you and really talk about is if you are able to retire. So if you've got $1 million saved up, as I said, there's a lot of variables that come into play, but let's just look at if you're 60 years old. At 60 years old, you're wanting to retire. And if you're retiring at 60, what's going to happen here is, if this wouldn't pop up in the way for me. So what's going to happen is we want to look at your expenses. Well, currently it's pre-retirement living expenses. Those don't really matter. But what we've got to look at here is income's not going to matter, but what you will have is Social Security income. That will matter. So right here, monthly full retirement benefit of 1666. That's awful. We're going to put this at 1667. The reason why I came up with that number actually of the $1,666 is actually CNBC just put out an article in 2022 that talked about the average Social Security income for retirees is $1,666, but I changed it just by $1 so that we don't have those numbers put together there. All right, so looking here at goals. When it comes to goals, retiring at 60, he's already 60 years old. His retirement expense, we're going to say he wants $6,000 in retirement every single month, or in money every single month. And then on top of that, we've got the national healthcare average of $5,867 for healthcare costs. So that's built into the plan. So really, if we look here, that's almost $1,000. So, you're at about $6,000. So it's almost $6,500 is what the actual expense will be in retirement. Like I say, I didn't incorporate in any kind of long-term care scenarios into this plan, just to give you a snapshot of what this looks like. So looking here, he's got $1 million. Now, here's the thing. This is going to depend on where you have your money saved, because if you have your money all in Roth money, it's all tax-free when you withdraw it. So you don't even have to worry about taxes. That's nice. But when it comes to that, then that's one way of looking at it. Maybe you can withdraw a little bit more money since you don't have taxes to pay. Or in the other instance, if you have taxes to pay, you may not be able to live on as much because you're going to have a large tax bill off of the income that you're pulling off of your assets. So you have to consider what type of account you have. But for the sake of this plan, what I did was, what we've got here is a 401k. It's all pre-tax money. And this money is actually going to be invested in a 70-30 portfolio. So 70% stocks, 30% fixed income. That is the strategy based on what I'm looking at here. So if we're actually going to take this into consideration, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the retirement analysis and let's take a look. So with this person wanting to retire at 60, live to be 90 years old, have $6,000 in monthly expenses plus the healthcare costs there, doesn't look really promising. So if you've got $1 million, you want $6,000 a month, plus you want to cover your healthcare costs, it may or may not be the best strategy for you. This person's also taking Social Security at 67, so at full retirement age. So let's adjust this a bit and let's see exactly where we can get to that fine line. So if we put this here, instead of $6,000, let's run it at $4,000. See, 4,000, 74% probability of success. I'm not mad about this. As a financial planner, looking at this at 74% probability of success, this is on a Monte Carlo scenario. The way that works is it runs, top world's best stock market, the world's worst stock market, basically, and everything in between. And you got 1,000 scenarios that are ran, ups and downs all through the scenarios in the stock within your retirement. And it's actually trying to find a median line there. So that median line saying that, hey, you've got a 74% chance of making it. So if the market does way better than, the averages, you're going to be in an even better spot. But it's also taking into consideration, hey, if the market does extremely bad, it could hinder you. And that's why you don't have this flat 100% return here. You've only got 74%. But if we're looking at this, you've still got $634,681 projected in assets at the end of the plan. So that alone tells me that, you know what, we need to monitor this plan for this person, but it may mean that they can retire and live on $4,000. Now we bump this up a little bit. Let's go to $4,500 just to get an idea. We're at 56%. They're only going to leave $189,000 at the end. For somebody that's wanting to spend on all their assets, hey, good for them. That might be a good idea. But for the average person, that's going to be really cutting it close. Looking at from a financial planning perspective, that's really not enough, or if you're wanting that kind of monthly expense during retirement. Now, one thing you have to consider, and one thing I've seen with retirees, is that the older they get, oftentimes the less they spend. So we could also look at building something, and what we do here with our clients is we can build it in where they are actually spending more in the early years and then scale back a bit in the later years. So that's another strategy to consider, just to make sure that, if you've got $1 million and you want to retire, then we can get you there. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch more FinTips videos, click here. Be sure to like and subscribe also.